Hey everybody, coming up on this Tuesday edition of Now, we're talking about lethal doses of drugs. The New Hampshire State Police Forensic Lab just released a shocking photo.
Tragedy in Manchester last night at the Ariana Grande concert. We'll talk to a local school counselor about what they talk to kids about and to a local performer about any precautions he might take as he gets ready to tour.
If you're headed to college, student loans are about to go up.
This is News Center Now. Hello everybody, I'm News Center's Lee Goldberg. Welcome to News Center Now.
And I'm Amanda Hill. We're actually starting with world news tonight because it has an impact all the way here in Maine. 22 people are dead after a suicide bomber set off an explosive device outside of a concert in Manchester, England last night.
Yeah, the explosion happened outside of an Ariana Grande concert at the Manchester Arena around 10:30. Police say that the youngest victim was just 8 years old. 59 other people were injured in the act, some of those people suffering from life-threatening injuries. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack, but neither the United States or British officials have confirmed that is the fact. This is obviously a story that resonates with a lot of you today.
Right, Heather says, I'm so very sorry to their families. I can't imagine sending your kids to a fun night and having this happen. It takes a special kind of evil to target teens and children like this. Linda says it's just so horrific. And Maine's Stephen King reacted to the attack, saying ISIS is, quote, a rogue cult that has substituted superstition and murder for spirituality. Every bombing hastens the day when they will be no more.
Now, performing in front of masses of people comes with inherent risk these days. Rapper Spose, who's from Wells, doesn't play in venues in front of tens of thousands of people, but he is going out on tour this summer, and what happened last night is very much on his mind, even if it won't change who he is.
It's definitely a reality, but I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to let fear seep into my enjoyment in my peaceful, healthy life. You know, it's like this is the gift is life. You got to enjoy it. If you're fearful all the time, it's a waste, you know. So I'm not going to fear it till it happens, and hopefully it never happens.
One of the most terrifying aspects of the attack is that it happened in so-called soft targets, places where a small group of terrorists can relatively easily cause large-scale devastation. It's a nightmare scenario for security experts and terrifying for the public. In recent memory, there was also the attack at the airports in Brussels and Istanbul, restaurants and concert halls in Paris, and at an office Christmas party in California. A security analyst says soft target attacks are incredibly challenging to guard against.
Soft targets are one of the hardest things to defend against, kind of hence the name soft target, is that there really aren't any layers of security for a soft target. It's a public area.
Key, say experts, is to remain vigilant and be suspicious of anyone acting out of the ordinary. There are no immediate changes to the security situation at airports in the U.S., though there may be more police in tactical gear on patrol in some cities. By the way, Adrian is here now with more on how parents can talk to their kids about these sorts of events, because it is difficult.
It can be very difficult. Beth Dolly, longtime guidance counselor at in South Portland School District, an elementary school specifically right now. And just as we reached out to you today, you had recently, just earlier, sent an email to teachers saying, look, this is something we need to watch with the kids, not necessarily in the classroom, but lunchroom, the playground. And this is not something you normally do with terrorist attacks. Why this one? Why did you want to alert the teachers for this particular attack?
I think I was surprised in the morning when I heard on the news about the attack, and when I think about the demographics of children and tweens who listen to Ariana Grande, I was thinking more that the children at our school are likely to be talking about it or thinking about it among themselves.
You're talking 8, 9, 10-year-olds, those 3rd, 4th, 5th graders. What is it about that particular age group that may have a more difficult time with something like this than either other attacks or other age groups?
I don't know if they don't necessarily have a more difficult time with it, but they may have been sheltered or not exposed to the fact that some of these terroristic things are going on, and parents and families work really hard to keep that from them. So this might be the first time, because of who was singing during the attack, that they have that information and think about that they could have been somebody who was there.
And of course, one of the victims, 8 years old. At what point do you know it is the right time to bring it up with your child?
It's most important usually to follow the child's lead. So if you know for sure that your child has run into some of that information, either some of their peers talked to them or they heard about it at school, even if you were trying to shelter them, you'd want to have that conversation. And it would be really important to, if they have questions specifically, to answer just what those questions are.
And I would imagine it's very age sensitive to this. You don't want to go into too much detail with an 8, 9, 10-year-old.
Exactly. So that's a skill that takes some practice. But if you think about talking to your child the way you normally would and validating the feelings that they have, it's sad, it's scary, those kinds of things. And then just answering questions that they have. And we have a tendency as adults to embellish our answers versus just answering the questions that are being asked.
Keep it simple. All right. Beth, thanks so much. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Adrian. We'll have much more coverage tonight on that bombing. Lester Holt is going to be anchoring NBC Nightly News live from Manchester right here at 6:30. And hey, look.
Hey, it's Keith.
I'm cleaning my finger from magic markers. What's happening right here?
There you go.
All right, guys, let's do some weather, shall we? Let's talk about high temperatures today. Kind of sneaky in spots. Look at Freiburg. They get to 74 degrees today, 70 in Lewiston. Most of these spots have cooled down a couple of degrees, kind of had an early high. Almost a little muggy, just a little moist in the atmosphere out there. Some clouds riding along the coastline, so unfortunately along the immediate coast, we haven't seen that much sun. We've seen periods of sun and brightening of skies. As a percentage of the state, about 85% of the state is sunny and will be that way until the sun sets. But again, right along the immediate coastline, we're getting some of these clouds kind of riding on in here. If we zoom out, we're bookended by rain. There's rain down to our south, there's some to our north, some to our east. But we're going to, for the most part, stay out of the rain until Thursday afternoon, Thursday night. And then it gets kind of nasty, it looks like, on Friday. Temperatures tonight drop into the 50s. Might see some patchy fog out there. Tomorrow, I'd call it considerable cloudiness. There's a storm to our south that's going to bring a lot of mid and low level clouds in. So I don't think it's an overly bright day. I would say, though, that most of us remain dry with just an isolated sprinkle favoring the mountains here. And then on Thursday, we start the day with sunshine, but it falls apart. And guys, at this point, the Friday leading into kind of the unofficial start of summer looks pretty terrible.
Great, thanks for that.
Yeah. At least the weekend's okay.
So glad he's here. Okay, hey, serious now. The New Hampshire State Police Crime Lab sharing a serious message about the dangers of drugs, and this is going viral.
A photo of 3 vials is circulating right now on social media. One shows the lethal dose of heroin, one of fentanyl, and the lethal dose of carfentanil, which is 1 small grain. The photo was taken by Bruce Taylor, who is a criminalist in the lab. Taylor wanted to show just how dangerous these substances are. You can see carfentanil specifically is so deadly that when it is handled in the crime lab, even in a vial like this, the handler needs to wear a full protective suit and someone else needs to be on standby with Narcan. The photo has been shared by a number of news organizations and police departments, including Westbrook PD. Crazy,
it's scary. And we talked about fentanyl a couple weeks ago, and he said it was like a granular, there's all that it took. So to see it, though, and put a vision to that.
It's awful.
That's crazy.
Awful. All right. Could more movies be made in Maine? That's what some state lawmakers are hoping for. We will take a look at the pros and cons next on Now.
And later on, for the first time in 6 years, it's going to cost you more if you're heading to the University of Maine next fall.
What bothered me is great books that are based in Maine were.
Do you ever wonder why a lot of Maine-based films aren't shot here in Maine? Supporters of a new bill in front of the Maine legislature will tell you it's because Maine is not competitive with other states' production and wage reimbursement rates. But LD 1450 aims to change that, and it just received a bipartisan stamp of approval from the Taxation Committee. Now, similar bills have been in front of the Maine legislature before, with opponents seeing them as tax breaks for the rich. But Republican Senator Dana Dow, the chair of the Taxation Taxation Committee says this bill is more reasonable than past proposals and says it's Maine-sized to fit our resources. Democratic Senator Susan DeChambeau brought the bill forward after she saw the economic impact a recent film shoot had on her Biddeford area. Scott Taylor produced a movie there last fall called Holly Star. He says his production spent $350,000 on payroll for Maine workers. Taylor says he thinks this bill would not only create Maine jobs, but would allow more independent filmmakers to train Mainers to work in the business so they'll be ready to go if Hollywood comes a-knockin'.
It's an incentive to help bring jobs and training to Maine that would just go somewhere else.
If more people would see that and not take it as these are rich people coming in and filming, that's not it. These are people who really love film. They've got a great eye for what's beautiful, and so that's why they're here.
The bill will now go to the Senate for initial votes. Now, recent movies that have Maine connections here but were filmed elsewhere include Tumbledown with Jason Sudeikis. Writer Desi Van Til described it as a love letter to her hometown of Farmington, but the movie was actually shot in Massachusetts. Now, there have been portions of major motion pictures filmed here. Does this park look familiar? It is Deering Oaks Park in Portland, and it was used for the skating scene in The Preacher's Wife with Denzel Washington and Whitney Houston, so pretty cool.
Which I went to.
You went to this? You were skating?
Yeah, no, they wanted extras, and I wanted to be on it. And
they said no, clearly.
They saw me and go, eh. No, but I wanted to see Denzel and Whitney up close. And
Wait, so did
you
camp
out, or was it?
I didn't get in.
Aww.
I got to look from afar, but I couldn't really see them.
That was one of the warmest winter days.
They said they had to bring
and it was like
snow.
melty.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying, yeah. So, but it is pretty beautiful here, so we'll see.
Bring in some more movies. All right, thanks, Jess.
Paying like
this
over
isn't good enough
$1,000
for
a month. I really don't have a lot of savings.
Student loan debt knows how high monthly payments can go, but you should think twice before jumping on a deal. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Plus, speaking of too good to be true, will there be more sun? We'll find out.
All right, Keith, bring us some good news.
Yeah,
at least for a few
bucks,
days.
no
I mean,
whammies.
I feel like it hasn't been that bad lately, but I'm still
been, like,
paying for the
chilly.
couple of weeks ago.
Well, for this one, honestly, it's the timing. If
Yeah.
you said it was going to rain Wednesday, but it'd be a beautiful weekend, nobody
Yeah.
cares. The fact that it's going to rain the
And I
Friday
pictured-
Memorial Day weekend, that's the
I
problem.
pictured our Old Orchard Beach show being like gloriously sunny, and then I saw the computer models.
And it will be
when we do it.
next
Is it next Friday?
Yeah.
I don't know yet. It's too far in my crystal ball. But we did get a little sunshine today. Look where the coastline is sitting compared to inland locations. That's all about the sun. We've got clouds that are stuck here, and it's nice and sunny out to the west here. So temperatures in the mid-70s in places like Fryeburg, but the satellite picture will bear out what's going on. Look at this down east mid-coast into southern Maine, cloaked in this cloudiness that's out over the Gulf of Maine. Meanwhile, as a percentage, again, 80–85% of the state is nice and sunny, and that's how we'll finish the day. We're surrounded by rain. There's some to our east, there's some to our west, a huge glob to our south and west. This is the low that for the most part will miss us tomorrow. It will just scoot to our south with just an occasional shower. Could have been a lot worse though. That's a lot of moisture down there that will miss to our south through the day tomorrow. So overnight tonight, we're partly cloudy. There could be some patchy fog out there through the evening, early morning hours. Here we are on Wednesday. Now, because that low is missing so closely to our south, there'll be a lot of clouds that will ride over the top of that low pressure system and move into Maine. So I don't think tomorrow is a particularly sunny day, despite the fact that most of us stay dry. There's an occasional sprinkle possibility in the afternoon, but I put that chance around 15 to 20%. Most of us are dry. And then Thursday starts out promisingly enough, but quickly clouds up. Then we get into showers that turns into rain on Thursday night, that turns into heavy rain through the day on Friday. It's a nasty looking rainstorm. It's been there for a couple of days on the computer models, sitting right offshore here. Bunch of moisture in the Gulf of Maine. It'll sling it back through the day on Friday. I don't see any dry periods really on Friday. We do though dry out for Saturday and Sunday. So it kind of works out in that we get at least 2 of these weekend days here in. Rainfall amounts are pretty big, over 1.5 inches predicted along the coastline. That's all with that storm on Thursday night. Friday, interesting stats game, guys, on how we are running above average for the month. Yet, if you look at this, 14 out of the 22 days have been at or below average. But those above average days were extremely above average. Like Saturday a lot, like Sunday second. Scattered showers on Monday. Monday's signal looks a little bit better than it did yesterday. So that's some good news as well. So it's really Friday that's just not good.
Trending in the right direction for Monday.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Friday, forget about it, but Monday might be okay.
All right, Casey, appreciate it. LOL, BRB. Chances are you know what those common texting acronyms stand for. But did you know there's an entire secret language out there? Teenagers are using it to speak in code just in case their parents are checking their phones. Things like 99, which means my parents are gone, or WTTP, which is want to trade photos.
We posted about this on our Facebook page and you had a lot to say about it. Katie says this is incredibly damaging. Instead of stalking your children, be someone they can talk to. Aaron says, I'm a teen and I text a lot. I don't even recognize any of the ones from the second list.
Kathy says, all right, let's just use cursive for all parental communication. Wouldn't that be nice? If you want to see some of those common teen texting codes, there's a disturbing list and it's on our website.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with cursive, right? Remember all that work and worry over ranked choice voting in Maine last fall? Turns out the whole thing is unconstitutional. That is the word from Maine's highest court about the election overhaul that voters approved in November. That measure changes the way ballots are counted in races for governor, the legislature, and Congress, requiring the winning candidate to have the majority of votes. The fallout from this decision is coming up on News Center at 5:30 and 6.
I would like to apologize to my son Leo for not being a good father.
That is the man who killed his 3-month-old son. Today, the judge sentenced Eugene Martineau to 15 years in prison. Leo Josephs died in 2015 from head trauma and catastrophic brain swelling. Is college tuition in your near future? Well, prepare to pay up. The University of Maine system, the trustees approved a tuition hike today. Tuition will go up an average of 3.3%. So for some perspective, in-state students will now pay $17,500 on average a year, and compare that to about $9,500 for other students going to in-state schools in other states.
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty big
Start
difference.
saving, Lee, if you haven't. You got some college to pay for.
Just a few kids to
Got one in
send.
the Coast Guard, and the rest can all go in the service as well.
I say
Problem
scholarships.
solved. Or that.
Fair
There you go.
enough.
Either way.
Yeah, work hard. Okay, well, by the way, what do you think the average student loan debt is for graduating college students? Take a guess. Head on over to pulse.newscentermaine.com and we will tell you at the end of this story. Because of that tuition increase, future Black Bears will be graduating with more student loan debt.
Now, many of those grads are looking for any way to get their loans down quickly, but as always, you have to be sure to triple check before you sign off on any reconsolidation so that what happened to Hillary Fields doesn't happen to you.
It was a day she'll never forget, graduation. With her nursing degree, the future seemed limitless. Except for one thing, her schooling came at a price, a mountain of debt in the form of student loans.
My loan totaled just about $86,000.
Which meant monthly repayments that were crushing.
I was paying like over $1,000 a month. I really don't have a lot of savings.
But then came a letter promising a rescue.
And it said it was from the Department of Education, and they said that I would be relieved of $25,000.
The only catch, she had to pay a monthly fee of $500 and ignore all calls from her student loan company because they would take care of that.
So I figured, wow, $25,000 off my total would be the best thing ever.
But as it turns out, it wasn't. Because that letter wasn't from the Department of Education, but from a private company that supposedly specialized in student debt relief. It's part of a booming underground industry that takes advantage of college graduates, leaving them with nothing but more debt.
Now what we're seeing is companies popping up and saying specifically that they can help you with your student loan debt.
He's Chris Thetford of the St. Louis Better Business Bureau.
You think that they are passing the payments on to whoever you owe the student loan money to when they don't do that.
And he says that by the time you realize there's a problem, the company you're dealing with closes down. The best deal he's seen is where these companies at least send info on how to consolidate your loans. The problem? That information is free from the government.
Never pay for information about how to pay back your student loans.
That's why Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan has filed 8 lawsuits against many student loan debt scam companies.
Empty promises.
As for Hillary, well, 6 months later,
the whole loan was in default.
And by then, she had paid her so-called helpers $3,000 in fees.
We were getting phone calls from debt collectors. We're scared. What do we do?
But to the rescue, Field's grandparents who took out a home equity line of credit. The lesson, Thetford says, be skeptical of companies wanting upfront fees.
You don't want to compound that pressure by spending money that could go towards your student loan debt.
It's something Field says she learned the hard way.
I was in way over my head with my loan payments. I was an easy target.
Now, statistics show that 1/4 of the American workforce may be eligible for repayment of loan forgiveness programs, and there are certain circumstances that would warrant federal student loan forgiveness as well, like joining the military or accepting certain public service jobs. More information about that can be found on the Now section of our website. And by the way, the average amount of student debt is $30,000. Ouch. Amanda?
All right, thanks, Lee. Cindy's here with a preview of what's coming up at 5:30.
Yeah, just a few days after he announced that he wanted to close the Down East Correctional Facility in Machiasport and move the inmates there to another facility, the governor is now getting involved in the sentences of some of those inmates. We'll have more on that. Why people who live in one Portland neighborhood woke up to something foul afoot stinking up their road. And these squirrels are extra squirrely. Look really closely and you can see why. We're going to meet the Bangor family who helped them out, and that could not have been easy. 4 little squirrels. Look at them. They're so cute, but they're stuck.
Now continues in a moment.
You're going to connect a war to weather in Braindrops today?
Yes, more than one war.
Fascinated.
Actually, so World War I. So prior to World War I, weather forecasting was literally someone to the west would tell you what's happening, and they could get it via rail or to the people in the east faster than the weather would travel. That was it. But things got more interesting in World War I because basically people wanted a better forecast for a number of reasons, one of which was, unfortunately, poisonous gas, how it would travel in the trenches. So this guy, Lewis Fry Richardson, who's an English mathematician, was the first one to try this. And he tried it when he was on the Western Front in World War I. And basically what he did was he got a set of observations from all of Europe and then tried to extrapolate using math going backwards from the west to the east, and he kept doing it over and over again with equations until he got the end result correct. And let's see if we can show you that grid that he had. This is the grid that he came up with. Each one of these grid points was a mathematical part of his forecast. This is still the system that computer models run on super computers work on today. It's a gridded system. Wow. Portland's in a grid, Lewiston's in a grid, so he started it. By the way, radar, World War II.
Wow.
See?
Hey, News Center at 5:30 starts right now.